Before we start today's show, I want to invite you to stick around to listen to a new podcast that premieres on September 16th. As the cannabis industry's only podcast network, we provide a safe platform for all cannabis voices to spread their uncensored message to the world. And that's why we're really excited about our newest show, the Chronic Insomnia Podcast. Join former Marine and insomniac Jack Pott and his guest as they discuss a range of cannabis topics that impact our military, our veterans, and you. For too many years, families of children with devastating illnesses have felt helpless as they watch their child suffer. Today, they're taking matters into their own hands and finally finding relief treating their child with cannabis. These are their stories.
Welcome to another episode of Love and Cannabis. I am Nina Simmons.
And I am Osiris Stephen.
And we are the proud parents of Aiden Stephen.
Hey guys, welcome to another episode.
Hello.
Guys, I mean, tonight is one of those nights where you get to meet some great people and you just look forward to having ongoing conversation because there's so many things that are similar but yet so different, and this is one of those interviews that we're going to have tonight. So tonight we have Shifra and Alexand Klein from Mitzva Wellness, LLC, out in California.
Yes.
Hey, welcome, guys. Welcome.
Thanks for having us.
Oh, yeah, absolutely.
I hope I pronounced everyone's names correctly. Everything's fine?
Perfect. I'm impressed.
Oh, thank you. So, guys, it's fascinating when we got to talk for a few minutes prior to the show about your experience and what got you into this industry. And the fact that you guys are from an Orthodox community, which was, I found like, wow, that's interesting. I thought with the stigma of cannabis and all these things, I would never thought that you would find people that's in the industry, especially in a community like this. And so I would love you to share your story and really how did you get to where you are now?
It's a great question. So, growing up, my husband and I are both Orthodox Jews, and we didn't really have any kind of cannabis education. We grew up in the 80s and, the dare to say no era.
Yes.
And, it just was off limits. It wasn't something. Alex, did you ever try before, like growing up?
No, I didn't. Absolutely not.
Yeah, I hadn't either. We never dabbled. I never had a joint. I mean,
we grew up in the say no to drugs era. Who doesn't remember the Ninja Turtles on TV saying, "Hey, grab a pizza"?
Same with me.
Yes,
80s
of a joint.
80s.
And there's such a stigma on it. And Shifra will talk about.
I don't know how old you guys are. Did you also are similar experience in the 80s?
Oh yes, I'm an 80s baby. I was born in early 80s.
Yes, I'm guilty, but I did experiment. I didn't inhale.
Naughty. I didn't. I'm similar to you guys, where I listen, just say no, and I didn't dabble in it. I didn't dabble in it. Even people around me were doing it. In college, I became a user in my 30s, just when I just noticed the benefits. So yeah, I can definitely relate to you two.
Okay, so I'm gonna get man out.
We had no concept at all. It was just an off limits kind of thing, and it got to the point when we have 4 kids, thank God, and we had kids fairly fast after we got married. We got married when we were really young. Alex, you were 22. I was 21. And
my wife is still young.
I'm still young. Yeah. And we had kids. Our first daughter was born 9 months later, and then after that, they're back to back. So now the kids are. How old are our kids?
14, 15, 16, and 17.
I understand.
Wow.
You forget.
That's wonderful.
So, everything was cool and good and, going the right way. And, we did realize that our third to youngest, there were some, he was diagnosed at 2 years old with regressive autism. And I'm I'm not sure. Are you familiar with regressive autism?
Yes. Yes. It's like, so they talk and then they stop talking.
Exactly.
Yeah, along with everything else.
So we didn't see any signs before 13 months old. We've gone back into his records. We've spoken with his specialists and his doctors. We've tried to find correlations of what happened. We do know that he is very sensitive to vaccinations, to the point that we could not continue with them. The doctors felt that it was not safe, because every time he had a vaccine, he had a major episode, whether it was seizure activity or, febrile seizures, just, 105 fever, and that couldn't bring it down.
We felt helpless.
Yeah, it was crazy. It was insane. And it was just months and months. By the time he was, how old? The time he was 2 years old, he had been on 16 antibiotics already. So he was sick with every vaccine. And then it was diagnosed as an upper respiratory infection. And then he was given antibiotics. And then he was sick again by his next vaccine. So whether it's from the vaccines, I don't think it's from the vaccines. I think he probably has some sort of something that, was aggravated by his vaccine schedule. We vaccinated all the kids on the same schedule, and he was the one that he just couldn't tolerate it. And he became almost to the point of a vegetative state, from fully functioning, saying 3 to 5 words at 13 months old. He spoke early, he played early, he talked early, he walked early. He couldn't hold his bottle anymore. He lost full motor function. He had a severe apraxia. His mouth hung open and he drooled. He had to wear a bib till he was 5.
He wouldn't let us touch him.
Yeah, we couldn't touch. Look at us. It was a disaster. By the time we got to our regional center, they had given us the option of awarding him to the state, because they said if we didn't have the means to support a child in his condition, it would be safer to award him to the state where he could be in a home, I guess, taken care of. Thank God we were able to keep him with us. It's not an option for everybody. And we did everything that we could to keep him with us. He had, over 50 hours a week of in-home therapy and outside the home, PT, OT, speech, what else? Oh, we had feeding therapy to swallow. Oh my gosh.
Safety awareness therapy.
Yeah, oh my gosh. We went through a lot. But by the time he was 10, he was on a cocktail about 5 medications, prescription medications that, there's no medicine for autism. There's not that one magic pill, and they just kept giving him stuff that wasn't for autism, hoping that some of those side effects would help him with his stimming or his eye contact or, his cognition and anything. And nothing was really helping at all. And we had really plateaued and hadn't seen progress. He was pushing 11 years old, in diapers, not feeding himself, not speaking. And I don't know if, he could listen to like a Disney song and sing it, but he couldn't say hi or say mommy or, it was like bizarre. I mean, I know that a lot of kids on the spectrum have that kind of tendency, that they do very well with music and things like that. But
counting, we put
numbers.
Candies. We put candies in a cup, and he would just look at the cup and he would tell us how many candies were in there.
Yeah.
And just, I don't know if you've tried to count, marbles in a jar, but he'd win that contest.
Oh yeah, he like superhuman math stuff. But it just ended up being that we spoke to his doctors because we were doing online research, and we said, we've tried all these medications and all these crazy therapies. He was in studies at UCLA, and we said, how about cannabis? Like, that seems like it's an option for people. We went online, we found Facebook groups that had a few thousand moms in it that were, parents that were treating their kids, and successfully. And when we brought it up to his team, we were completely shut down. And it got to the point that it was like kind of creepy, eerie shut down. Like,
why? Like,
they took us into a room, like this weird room, and they like sat us down with like the whole team. Like they called in everybody, and it was like kind of scary. And they're like, listen, if you guys decide to go this route, you're off we can't treat you
you're on your
anymore.
own.
You're on your own. You've gone rogue. Yeah.
What
Exactly.
state? I mean, at the time, what state were you guys? You guys were still in California. Like, what town?
Yeah, California. This is back in early 2015.
Really? The state that pushed cannabis now is the one pulling back?
Well, what's funny now is that UCLA is now doing studies with cannabis, but back then they weren't, and they were not for it at all. So, this is before there was funding. This is before, there wasn't access to this stuff. And, even dispensaries back then were so seedy, it wasn't like a place you'd want to hang out, where now they're like nicer than your house,
That looks like Apple stores.
Exactly.
I'm like, can we redesign the house to look like MedMen?
Yeah, right? Some high-end stuff. Some real good furniture.
Who's your designer?
So Alex, as a dad to dad, going through this, just going back to this, when this all started, like, what was running through your mind while your son was going through this and your family's like, okay, we have a major issue. What are we going to do? Like, who was the one that was taking control of, let's research this aspect and you do this? How was that devised on your end?
Well, I think that, there was a lot of denial at first, where, as soon as the label was put on our kid, the first thing I thought was, no, it's got to be a mistake. We got to do more testing. And, I was always a IT person, a technology person by trade. So, along with Shifra, we went on Google and we researched all these things and looked up, autism symptoms and things of that nature, and just tried to figure out, does he really have what they say he has? And, maybe it's things similar, so I really felt defeated as a dad. I really felt like, you want the best for your kid. You're going to do whatever you can for your kid. And now here's something that's out of your control that you can't fix. And I'm a fixer. I want to be a fixer as a dad. And I felt like I couldn't fix this. So I at the beginning, I felt defeated. And I think that's really what drove us to do what the next step was.
Yeah, it does make you feel helpless as a dad, because you feel like that this is my role. I'm supposed to take care of my family. Like, how did this happen? Like, you start to blame yourself. Like, where did I go wrong? There's something I did wrong, the blaming of yourself. Because I went through that phase as well. When my son started with the epilepsy, having like 100 to 200 seizures a day, watching him fall left and right, it was just like mind-boggling to go through it. I think one of the most shocking time for me was giving him a bath, and I just turned around a second just to grab a towel, and he has a seizure, and his head's under the water, and it's like,
wow.
So it's like
that
those moments.
So scary.
It is like every day is like a scary moment. So I can imagine. I totally understand what you guys, you were going through as a dad to deal with something like that.
Yeah. It was unbelievable.
Yeah, it was every day. It was like there's days where he would go days not sleeping. And literally days not sleeping. He would go I think his longest was 4 days at a time, where he was up, all those hours, and then just crashed. But every time we had him in bed at night, it was like, oh my God, we kept him alive another day. It was like, it was like an accomplishment to keep him alive, whether it was, just keeping him from harming himself even, from his violent tantrums and banging his head or biting himself or running in the street. We had to put locks on our front door that are, first we put 2 doorknobs. Remember we had 2 doorknobs?
Oh, that's right. And he couldn't figure out. Oh my gosh, you're right.
So we put 2 doorknobs. We put one like a regular doorknob, and then we put another doorknob too high. So he, like the arm spans, you need to turn them both at the same time to open the door. So, but then he got bigger than us.
And then he figured out, he's like, I can just turn these both at the same time.
Wow.
We went to crazy stuff because he was like chasing cars. I mean, he even escaped from his school. At one point, this was in, I think, 3rd grade. He escaped from his school, and it was, they had like 4 locked gates, supposedly. And wow. He was running down the middle of the street the wrong way in traffic.
Oh my God! They say that about children with autism.
A runner, like a runner.
Someone got out of their car that almost hit him and grabbed his shirt, and saved him.
Yeah, again from dad to dad. Osiris, I want you to just picture, like you're driving down like a major intersection and you see a kid just walking towards you. It's a well-dressed child that's obviously out of place, and you're stopping your car because you don't want the car behind you to maybe that's not going to be.
And he got
like
out
you.
of his car.
Yeah, he got out of his car.
You know, in the middle of the street.
Potentially save our kid.
That's awesome.
It's things like that, that we go to bed at night just happy that he's safe,
Attention Cannabis Podcast listeners. You can now listen to your favorite cannabis podcast ad-free with the MJBulls mobile app. Just download the free MJBulls mobile app to your smartphone to start enjoying cannabis podcasts with no commercials. Go to Apple Apps or Google Play to get the MJBulls Cannabis Podcast app today.
Yeah, but then you can't sleep because you're wondering, is he going to get up now? Is he going to escape? So you're either sleeping outside his door, on the floor.
Alex sleeps really well, no matter what.
Yeah, I'm the deep sleeper.
Yeah,
so
but I hear
my wife tells me about it in the morning.
Mine too.
I can hear the kids breathing.
Yes.
in the room, right?
That's me.
You know what? When we go to hotels, when we go, traveling to different places, we want to take them to amusement parks and different things. Ask Shifra, she's right here. You can ask her right now. Yeah, I would push the dresser, these crazy dressers from hotel rooms. I'd push them like the Incredible Hulk across the hotel floor to the front door to make sure that in the middle of the night, if he figured out where the front door was, he couldn't open it.
Yeah, we've become pretty able to adapt to his needs, but it got to the point where it was just too much, and it was like, what are we doing at this point? And we had to make the decision: are we going to keep going on this route and not see any progress, or are we, we go through the IEP system, the IEP every year, and it's like we're not even changing his goals. It felt like we're going backwards.
Yeah,
and
we went through
and
that.
I'm like, it's crazy, the IEP system. We have to get lawyers and advocates, and it's like we're exhausted. We were just exhausted, so desperate and willing to try anything. And we saw some videos on YouTube we saw a video, and we're like, okay, it's time for us to try this. So we wanted to explore it, and then we learned about edibles, and we knew he wouldn't take oil. We were like, he had so many feeding issues. Basically, he eats chicken nuggets. Like, that's where we're at, So there was no way we were going to get like an oil down here. So we knew we had to go with edibles, and we do keep a kosher diet, and there are no kosher edibles.
Because of the gelatin, right?
What was that?
Is it because of the gelatin?
So there's a lot of things that make a product kosher or not. Mm-hmm. Kosher is we don't mix milk and meat. Mm-hmm. We don't eat pork or shellfish.
Yes.
There's certain birds of prey we don't eat.
Fish.
There's wheat fish, just certain fish.
No, certain fish.
Yeah,
certain fish we don't eat.
Fish that have fins and scales.
Yeah.
There's a lot that goes into it, but then there's kosher certification, which is a separate issue, where there's rabbinic authorities that will come to the manufacturing plant to make sure that there is no cross-contamination with not kosher products, and make sure all the ingredients are kosher that are being put into the product. And yes, gelatin is one of those things because gelatin is derived from pork.
Yes.
Unless it's fish gelatin, which is kosher. So the reason that there was no kosher edibles is because kosher certification companies that give the stamp of approval, it's not, people think that kosher means that it was blessed by a rabbi, which totally does not happen. I wish it were so easy. But you need to pay to have the service of having the rabbis come out to your facility and deem it a kosher product. And then you can put the kosher stamp of approval on your food. You probably have tons of kosher food in your house and don't even realize it, that has, a circle with a K in the middle or a circle with a U in the middle. Crystal Geyser water is OU kosher certified, So there's a lot of things. Lay's potato chips are, Coca-Cola is, but the thing is that, they don't want to give certification to cannabis, because if they give certification to cannabis, then they're basically giving the stamp of approval for cannabis, and no rabbis wanted to put their name on anything because they don't want to promote people getting high. So that was it's a huge stigma in the Orthodox community, and there was nowhere we were going to find kosher. Now, when it comes to medicine or life and death type issues, you can give your child or yourself something that's not kosher. But if I had the option, I would love to give my child a kosher product.
Of course.
So we decided that if we wanted to give him something that was kosher and we couldn't find it, we could figure out how to make it in our own kitchen. You know, I'm a special needs educator, but I also bake a lot. I was selling cakes at a time for a time we had what was the license called that we had in the house?
Oh, the cottage.
A cottage license. So we had like a little baking business on the side just because I love baking.
For the PTA meetings too?
What was that?
For the PTA meetings? You know.
Right, exactly. I know. I was like the most popular mom in school, just saying.
Yeah, like we want you to bake.
Listen, early on, that's what really made me fall in love with Shifra.
My food?
As long as
Well,
you
thank
don't
God I
get the
can
show for
cook
it.
then. Wow.
Listen, we had our first
Oh, that's right.
Thanksgiving. One of the first times that we went out, it was around Thanksgiving.
That's right.
And Shifra made a turkey and made all kinds of stuff. And I was like, I'm ready, baby.
That was like the first time we went out. That's funny. It was Thanksgiving. That's right. I forgot about that.
That was a deal sealer right there. It's like, we're getting married.
Right. See, I knew what I was doing. It was all planned. No.
Listen, she's beautiful. She has an amazing personality. She knows how to cook. You checked all my boxes.
There you go.
The complete
I don't know how
package.
many boxes of hers I checked.
Yeah, right.
My boxes.
She's still checking off her box for my wife.
It's only been 19 years. You got time.
Wow.
That's true.
Oh, that's funny because it's we're going on our 10th anniversary. We've been together for 16 years.
Wow.
Yeah.
Oh, wow. Yeah. So, you know.
Congratulations.
You know what I'm talking about.
Yeah,
exactly.
But so we started with we actually
back
started
to the internet.
Yeah, we started
Crock potting
actually. We were buying, and it's so funny because we had no idea what we were doing. We looked up strains that we thought were going to be appropriate to meet his needs just by listening to other parents. We found some researchers in Spain, some researchers in Israel that, you know, Israel is very, very ahead of us when it comes to cannabis research.
Yeah. So once we had the strains,
I
want you to picture, I mean, nobody could see me, but I mean, if you saw me in the street.
He looks like a rabbi, you know, with a big beard.
Pretty religious looking guy.
Yeah, I saw your picture on Instagram.
Yeah, we saw, we're like, wow.
Yeah.
I would never thought that.
Picture.
You got to picture him walking into a dispensary.
You know, I'm walking into a dispensary, and, you know, first of all, the security guard is this big biker-looking dude with tattoos everywhere and a chain hanging out of his jeans. And he looks at me and he's like,
are you lost?
Are you lost, right?
The temple's down the street.
The temple's down the street. Yeah.
You know, and I'm like, actually, here's my ID. I'd like to come in and check things out. And then I'm in front of a bud tender and I'm talking, you know, the talk. I'm like, you know, I want an eighth of this. I don't want an eighth of that.
I think we started with ECDC. I think that was our first strain.
Yes.
And then we moved to Canatonic, and then we went to Harlequin, and that was a really good strain.
Oh, yeah. Harlequin's awesome.
Yes.
And then, but it was funny because we didn't know what we were doing, and we were buying top shelf flour to stick in a crock pot. Like, we were spending loads of money on
God.
Beautiful, beautiful bud. And destroying it. You know, the first run we didn't even decarb it. We missed a step.
We thought we'd burn it.
Yeah.
And
I don't know.
We cooked it too much.
We had a lot of experimenting, and the thing is that we were so nervous to give him stuff that we didn't know, you know, how potent it is or anything. So
it sounds like you guys tried it first.
Well, no, we didn't. We were too scared. We're wusses. We didn't try it. But we sent it in for lab testing. So we were paying for lab testing, and it was coming back, and it was like 0%. You know, like we were like, what do we do?
Right,
you know, like
right. Exactly.
As obliterated. So what happened when you were in the dispensary, Alex?
Well, it's, you know, which one? I mean, you know, I had some pretty interesting experiences going in there. Because, you know, there were some people that were put off some people were a little suspicious about me coming in. They're like, is this guy, coming in to like, is there going to be like a shakedown? He's coming in to like, check us out.
Spy.
Are you CIA?
And as soon as I opened my mouth, that really shut all these things down.
Yes.
I knew what to ask for. I asked a lot of good questions. And when I didn't like the answers, I'd move on to another dispensary and ask my questions there. Because, when people would kind of like push back, like, why are you asking so many questions? It's for our kid.
Exactly.
I don't care why you think I'm asking the questions. I need to know these answers because we need to make sure that we're creating the correct medicine for our kid.
Well, I think another point is, honey, is also that a lot of these bud tenders don't know what to answer. They're not knowledgeable.
Yeah, they're more sales than
kind of thing. And I think that has to do a lot of it. So we're here doing a ton of research, like we're like the FBI learning about cannabis,
right?
And then we walk in there and they don't know, one strain from another, what terpenes are in there, each strain, or don't know how to answer us. And sometimes
why don't you know this?
I think when we were researching, you're totally right, honey. We wanted to know everything that our child was going to be taking. We wanted to know the experience, what it should be affecting. And I just think people didn't have the answers that we were looking for too.
Yeah, we have to go find the answers.
And also you look weird, so.
Getting back to that. Yeah, that was it. Yeah.
So
interesting.
Yeah, so that was the beginning. That was the way beginning. And then once we were on to something and starting to get lab testing back that we were on the right track, that's when we made our first batch of cookies for our son.
Yeah, I think we got to the point where we crock-potted for maybe a day and a half, and we were at the point where we were using, for folks listening out there that know about this stuff, we were using cheesecloth, and we were like the real deal.
Nice.
We were straining our bud, getting it to the point where we're getting every drop of oil out of it.
We were using coconut oil.
Yeah, we were using coconut oil, and we really got great looking oil that we were really impressed with. And when we got the labs back, it blew our mind.
We were high-fiving. We were doing a little dance in the kitchen.
We weren't high, but we were high-fiving.
So what ratio were you looking for in terms of for CBD versus THC for him when you?
So in the beginning, we wanted to get like a 20-1 strain.
Oh, okay. Mm-hmm.
That's right.
For him. We did go to a 3-1. We did do a 1-1.
Mm-hmm.
We definitely tried different strains out, and we felt he did very well on the 20-1.
Okay. We
were giving him at one point 20-1, and then in the evenings we were giving him a 1-1 for sleep.
Nice.
But then he just, I don't know, after like a little while, I just felt like the 1-1 wasn't doing it anymore, and he really didn't need it. But as he gets older and gets bigger, we are definitely experimenting with different strains again. Their body changes, their hormones change.
Oh, yes.
So we started this when he was,
15?
No, maybe it was 2000. He was about 11.
2015.
And, he was about 11, and now he's 15. So he's changed so much, like drastically. I mean, he went from this, underweight, tiny little guy. He's now 6 foot, 250 pounds.
Yeah,
he's a big boy. Yeah.
Did you notice that when he was going through his growth spurts, like the seizures were like they were just activated, or did you notice that there were things changing when he went through those growth spurts, like
behavior changes or
right? So he does not have seizure activity. He only has seizure activity when he was getting those high fevers when he was younger.
Okay.
So we've done EEGs and stuff, and we haven't caught anything since then. But
more like ticks.
No, he does get very stimmy.
Yeah, stim. That's the word I was looking for.
Very, very stimmy. He gets as he's getting older and hormonal, and his body is changing, he has become more agitated sometimes. So we went through a period of time where he was like very, very chill, very go with the flow. We're like, oh my God, like this is a miracle, with the oil. And then we started to see some like really outrageous outbursts, like him throwing things and or breaking like a toy or throwing his iPad, which he loves dearly, and like destroying. We've gone through like 6 iPads. And we hadn't seen that for a really long time, but, he is getting older, and I'm finding that the more cognitive he is now, the more he's understanding and grasping, and the less that he can express to us but wants to. I feel like maybe he didn't even want to before, when he was kind of like in his own world, like he was cool with it. Now that he's with us, more present, I feel like he gets more frustrated now. Does that make sense?
Yes, absolutely.
Yeah, because now he's aware. Now he's aware that he wants to communicate all this stuff, and now he's trying to figure out how.
Right. Like, he hangs out with us now. Like, before, we couldn't find him in the house. Like, we'd have to look for him because he'd try to get as far away from us as possible.
He'll just come and jump on the bed and be like, "What's up?"
And he goes, "Hey, guys, what's up?" I'm like, "Oh, hello."
Yeah, our son would run away from us when we came around with those healthy meals.
Yeah. Yeah, it was he didn't want to be touched, he didn't want to be looked at. He'd be in a room with a blanket over his head just so he didn't have to deal with like people looking at him or talking to him. And now he's like, wants to be part of the party. So, there's so many good things that came from it, but he still has autism. There's still things that we're dealing with, and we're going to continue to deal with. And we see the change now. We see there's different things we're dealing with now with the hormones. His body's changing.
Teenager.
And all these different things, that stuff we weren't dealing with now. We're like, oh, okay, now we need to start addressing, these issues that we didn't have before. So the issues are there, they're different, and they're going to be different, but they're so much more manageable now. Like that he's off of all those meds where he was just totally zoned out. And now he's present. He's with us. He's able to function. He can talk. He can communicate. He had a bar mitzvah. He was able to read from the Torah. He reads English and Hebrew. He actually changed schools because he was phased out. He was just too cognitively high for the program he was in, which we thought he would just be there forever. So we've seen a huge change, and people in our community were started talking about it because we do go to synagogue on Saturdays. Everyone is, they call it in Yiddish, a yenta. They like to schmooze about what's going on, whose neighbor's doing this, who got divorced, whose kid is this. Do we like to talk, our people.
I think that's in every community. That's in every community.
I don't think it's just limited to your community.
I'm telling you, I hope I feel bad for other people if they're like this.
Listen, our people, just like a lot of other people, are also very cautious, and we were met with, at the beginning, even though it was really helping our son, we were met with a lot of backlash.
Well, before the backlash, people wanted to know what we were doing.
Yeah.
They're, why is your kid is in the synagogue and he's sitting still and he's not flapping all over? What's going on?
It's true. I should take a step back, and that when we were starting Yaakov on this stuff, a lot of people would say to us, we would say, Yaakov's trying, with his therapist. We would say, let us know how he's doing.
Oh, yeah.
He's on a different medicine.
Yeah, we didn't tell them, we didn't tell anyone what we were doing. We would tell the school he's on a different vitamin regimen, or, we didn't know how people were going to react to it.
Just ask for feedback.
The first time we gave him a cookie, within a few minutes, we saw eye contact from him, and we had never seen his actual eyes. It was like, we would put our hands up like blinders to try to get him to look in our eyes and put our faces right in his face, and he just couldn't do it. And he looked at us for a good, long, I'm going to say, I don't know, it felt like eternity, but I would say good. What did you say?
It
15
was,
seconds, maybe?
Listen. He looked at us to the point where I started crying.
Yeah,
let's say that.
We couldn't believe it.
Wow.
And then
we both started crying.
And he smiled, and we're like, oh my God, our kid is in there. Like, he's there. Like,
that's so awesome.
So we want to hear more about your story, and I feel like we're getting to the meat and potatoes of your son's progress. So I think we got to make this a 2-part. So we're gonna stop this part 1, and we're gonna do part 2. So everyone tune in for part 2 with the mitzvahs, and we're gonna hear more about their son's progress.
From Mitzva Wellness, it's the Kleins. It's this is fascinating. I can't wait for us to do the part 2. So hold on, tune in, and we'll have the second part for you guys.
Thanks for tuning in another episode of
Love and Cannabis.
I'm Osiris Stephen.
And I'm Nina Simmons.
Be strong.
And stay empowered.
Warning, the host of this podcast has a penchant for the pontification of puns and an altruistically alienating affection for alliteration. If you suffer a weak constitution or get annoyed easily, you may want to seek prior medical advice, or avoid this particularly perplexing podcast as the host is unbalanced as a washer full of shoes. When you've memorized every infomercial line by line, it's probably time to rethink your life. And so, the Chronic Insomnia Podcast was born. I'm Jack Pott, your docent of dope. The Chronic Insomnia takes an intimate look at the often misunderstood world of mental disorders by giving a voice to those who understand all too well just what it is to live with them, and the impact that the cannabis industry has made on issues that affect almost half of the Americans 18 and up, and 1 in 4 people in the world. Interviews with everyone from medical professionals, industry professionals, service members and patients, legislators, and even you. So tune in, toke up, and think about it. Chronic Insomnia Podcast. Wake up.